Hi, this is Jeff. This week we're talking with Michigan professional theater and film actor Rusty Mewha. We're talking about working at the Purple Rose, working with famous people, the Michigan work ethic, and much, much more, so stay tuned.
All right. We just gotta tell this story right now.
Whatever is authentic and real in that moment, that's what we want. I could tell that he felt like the project was beneath. I hope for the greatest success possible for each of the theaters.
Hello and welcome to Michigan Theater and Film Talk. I am your host, Jeff Tamakis, and today we are talking with Mr. Rusty Mewha, a local actor, professional actor who's been around for...
Well, I have been around for 43 years.
Well,
I've
yes,
been working around town since about 2006. Yeah.
2006.
Yeah.
2006. Let's do the math.
So we're doing about 14 years.
14
Yeah,
years.
I joined Equity in 2007.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
All right, we'll get to that in a minute.
Cool.
But before we begin, I do want to let everyone know about Facebook, which exists, and if you want to be the first to know about these types of videos, I do these videos all the time. Go ahead and like my page, which is Michigan Michael Chekhov Classes M2C2, and like that, and you'll be the first to know. Also, if you go to YouTube and subscribe at Michigan Chekhov, you can also be the first to know. And go ahead, either way, like this video and share this video with everyone you know, have known, or will know for your entire life. Please. Now, Rusty,
Hey, Jeff.
let's talk about 2006.
Yeah.
So, you've been around since 2006. What, are you from Michigan, or?
Oh, I was born in Texas. My family, I lived in Texas as a little lad for a couple years, moved to Oregon where my dad's family's from, back to Texas, but moved to Michigan in 1988 when I was 12, in the fall of 1988. Michigan is home.
Michigan is home.
Michigan is home.
Why do you say that? What makes Michigan?
Well, I mean, all my formative stuff happened here. Puberty happened in Michigan.
Well,
so I mean, that's about. I mean, the self, some sort of beginning of self-realization happened here. And when I was in Texas and other places, kind of bounced around a little bit. But once we moved here, I was in the Waldeck school systems. Went to Waldeck Junior High, Waldeck Western High School, and then moved to Detroit and went to Wayne State and stuff. So yeah, well, there were some other detours, but yeah, I'm a Michigan person.
All right.
Yeah.
So, what made you want to go into theater? Did you just happen into it, walk into a theater one day?
Well, before I had any notion of towards acting or theater, I've always opened my mouth and sang songs. As a kid, I sang a lot, and that has been always part of my life. So in some way, shape, or form, I've been in front of people performing since I was a kid. I remember in second grade in my elementary school, which would have been in Oregon, I was Paddington Bear in a school play. So that was my first play. And in junior high and high school, theater was really just another opportunity to sing. I didn't do any straight plays. I think I did a one-act play in when I was in 8th grade, but everything else I sang. So I was a choir kid and did the musicals in high school.
What were the musicals?
See, we did a hodgepodge thing that our our drama directors threw together my freshman year. It was a homemade thing. It was actually probably in violation of all sorts of copyright and licensing
As sometimes
laws.
happens
in
theater,
but
educational theater.
Yeah, and I did, it was Joe Cable in South Pacific sophomore year, and I was in Pippin my senior year, or maybe Joe Cable, yeah. I'm not recalling. It was one a year I did, so there's the the Hodgepodge, and then there was South Pacific and Pippin, and I.
Oh, who'd you play? Did you play Pippin?
I was not Pippin.
No?
No, there was some scheduling conflicts that I couldn't be there for Tech Weekend, so I was not.
Oh.
So Pippin, the role of Pippin was ripped painfully out from under me.
Oh no!
Yeah, my first taste of the sting that can happen.
Yeah.
In showbiz.
Oh, that is showbiz.
Mm-hmm.
So, and did you major in theater when you?
No, this will probably infuriate some people. I don't have a theater education.
Mm-hmm.
I am, I've taken some studio things. I did for a time. My college career was winding and long. I was a bit of a sort of destination-less kind of person. I didn't know what I was doing. I was personally sort of a bit of a mess. So I went to a private school in Virginia. My first year of college, went away, moved away from home. That had a lot to do with growing up in an evangelical Christian home. Went to a private college. My first year, didn't like that very much. Came home, went to Wayne State, got involved in. I was heading towards like an English degree. I was thinking I wanted to be a writer, and I moved to Detroit into an apartment building that was populated with a bunch of actors who quickly became my best friends. Started seeing plays at the Bonstell and the Hillberry. In the following year, my third year of college, I entered the theater program at Wayne State, and I really enjoyed it. Was in did a year of undergrad there. Then I kind of personally had some issues, fell apart, dropped out of school. Took a while to get back to it. Meantime, I was working, and I got like a blue collar job. I got married. I had a couple kids. I think before I went back to Wayne State in 2004 and 5 when I finished my English degree. So at that point, I got my degree, and in 1998, when I was still at Wayne State doing the theater program, I did a play at Planet Ant while I was still I think I was in my second semester. I met my wife there.
At Planet Ant?
At Planet Ant. We did Eric Bogosian's Suburbia.
Yeah, good play.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun with some other people who are still working in the scene today, Keith Kalinowski. And that was kind of my. From there, I did another project with the people who produced that. We did a Hamlet Machine by Heinrich Muller.
I think that sounds right.
I think that sounds. Yeah, right. We did that at the New York Fringe Festival in the summer of '98. Then I did a bunch of kids theater. Well, not a bunch. I did 2 or 3 shows with the Marquee Theater in Northville, non-union professional situation, which was really cool. And then I got married and started a family and went in a totally different direction. Kind of left the acting thing behind for a few years. Finished my degree at Wayne State in English, and then once I finished that, I was like, what do I want to do? I had this blue-collar job. I was working at sand and gravel plants, and that was not satisfying, and it was awful in all sorts of ways, but also really good in other ways. I learned how to work really hard. And having finished my English degree, I told my wife, Robin, I think I want to try acting. So I just went on.
And what did she say?
Cool, great.
That's great.
Well, she's an actor. I mean, she
understands.
She understands. She's super supportive of every move I've made, or every choice I've made in the past 15 years. And so I auditioned for the Wild Swan Theater in Ann Arbor, professional kids theater, which was a bunch of great people there, and I did a bunch of shows 2 or 3 shows with them. Right in a row. Started auditioning at the equity houses in town. No luck. So my wife suggested, I was frustrated. I had no reason to be as frustrated as I was because I was actually working, which is really cool. But
what did you want?
What did I want? I wanted to wanted to join Equity. I wanted to work in professional equity theaters, and I was getting callbacks and stuff. She said, "Why don't you do an audition workshop?" So I went to the Purple Rose, did an audition workshop with Guy Sanville, and I got a job out of that as an understudy for a production there in 2006. It was the show was Hannes and Me by Stephen Dietz. So I understudied that show, as will happen from time to time. An actor got sick, and I ended up doing about the final 3 weeks of performances.
Oh,
yeah,
all right.
They got me another job there.
Bad for him, but
yeah,
but great for you.
Yeah,
yeah.
I was invited back for another show as an understudy full time.
And this was back in 2000.
This was 2006. Second job there was 2007. That's when I joined Equity. They offered me an Equity contract, and so I was I wasn't totally sure if I was ready for that, but I went for it. It's been a good choice. I've been booking union shows ever since.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. So you've been pretty much at the Purple Rose off and on since 2000.
Well, 2007, and then you know what? The way I perceived it, the answer is no. I mean, there was a brief period of on there, and then there was a longer period of about 6 years that was off. Mm-hmm. I got my Equity card there as an understudy, and that was a time when I think a new crop of actors came through there, and there wasn't really there wasn't stuff for me. I'm not going to attempt to figure out why that happened or didn't happen.
Well, that's
for me.
what happens with actors.
Yeah, it is exactly. So it wasn't until 2013 when I was cast there again that I started working there regularly again. So I was working at Meadowbrook and Performance Network, and a couple shows at the Jet. So I was still working at Union Theater. Yeah,
a couple shows at the Jet.
Yeah, we. Yeah, I seem to remember you involved in one of those.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Maybe we'll tell some stories from that a little later.
There might be one or two.
Yeah, there might be. It was 2x2, and it was a trip.
That's one way to say it. Yeah.
It was literally a trip.
There was literally a trip and a
all right. We just gotta tell this story right now. All right. First of all,
this story will get a lifetime of traction. I mean, I have told this story so many times, Jeff.
I have too. I told it to my kids for the first time.
Well, this will be interesting because I want to hear you tell it, because I want to see if memory has diverged at all.
First of all, I think it starts with the fact that I said the name of the Scottish play in the dressing room that day.
That's important.
Yeah, that's important because I was saying, I'm interested in directing this show, which ultimately we ended up doing at Waterworks when I was the artistic director there. And I'm like, and everyone was, I said the name of it. I won't even say the name of it here, all right? It's the Scottish play. Look it up. You should know what it is, but it's by Shakespeare. And, at the time I was like, well,
curse schmurse.
Yeah, whatever. And that same show, just off track from it, there's a woman in the audience. Do you remember this woman in the audience?
Quite vividly.
Okay, yeah. And she was in the front row, and I think she thought she was watching. She thought she was watching TV or something.
Yeah, there was a slight divorce from what was actually happening, in terms of her perception of reality. There was something that was not.
Well, the first time we knew we were in trouble was when the actor playing Noah He did this thing on the ground where he's planning out the 2x2 is the story of Noah's Ark. So he's planning out the ark. You go over here. You go over here. You do this, and she's looking at it and what's he doing? Really loud.
300 cubits by 200 cubits. She goes, 14! She screams out.
She screams 14. 14. And we're like, what? and some of us were like, turn up stage.
Yeah.
Turn up stage. Don't laugh. My favorite part is in the second act, Noah's wife passes. Spoiler alert. And he sings this beautiful song. Don't go.
Tears are flowing.
Tears are flowing. Don't leave yet. And she must have missed something because she was like, "Where's she going?"
Yeah, she did. She said that out loud, real loud. It was something. At the end of the first act, there's a confrontation. The rebellious son, played by Mewha, doesn't want to board the ark and participate in God's unjust plan to destroy the earth, and so Papa Noah KOs him, and his two older brothers, Jeff among them, John DeMero the other.
I played Ham.
Ham, I was Japheth.
Yeah.
Anyway,
typecasting.
Their job was to take me, presumably, to the ark, off stage. It didn't go as planned, as it should have. I was. First of all, I was wearing like a Jesus wig, and we'll try to speed this up a little bit. This is getting dragged out a bit. But as I was being picked up, Jeff was picking me up by my shoulders. He lifted me up, and with my eyes closed, I realized this was an unusual position. This was not as normal. And
So I went to lift him up, and for some reason I slipped or couldn't get the right traction, and I lift your head right up my old biblical robes. So I'm like, and I go, whoa! It's like, I
got teabagged.
I was like, oh no! And that really threw me. And then I think I had to adjust, but I couldn't quite get the grip after that.
Yeah.
and I'm walking backwards, and my arc is off. I end up tripping over us.
Well, let's just, before we get there,
okay.
let's remember that after you readjusted me and you lifted me up properly, my forehead caught the hem of your biblical robe and peeled my wig off.
Your wig off. I forget what that happened.
And at which point, I lost control, turned my head upstage, started laughing hysterically, which compromised your grip on me, and I think screwed up your trajectory and your path. At which point, and you're walking with me backwards, you tripped over a set piece, dropped me on the floor, I cried out, he dropped me, and I ran off stage in a fit of laughter, leaving my wig in the middle of the stage.
Fortunately, that was the end of the first act.
Oh, God. And perhaps, well, depending on your perspective, fortunately or unfortunately, it was a very poorly attended performance. There were probably about 40 people in the house, so not a whole lot of people witnessed this.
40 people is still a lot of people to have witnessed this fiasco.
Just a quick interruption to tell you once again about my Pay What You Can workshop on March 4th, that's Wednesday, from 6:30 to 9:30 at the Universalist Unitarian Church of Farmington. Go to www.michigancheckoff.com to sign up. We'll be covering auditions. So if you want to improve your audition, whether it be for a monologue or a cold read, come to the workshop and learn some fast and easy ways to do it. We'll see you then.
Theater is a wonderful thing because
You never know.
you remember the great performances sometimes. You remember like, oh man, that time. But most of the time, you when you really hit it, you don't remember anything.
Correct.
So as an actor, all you're left with is the times when everything fell apart in your memory.
Yeah, absolutely.
And those things stick with you forever.
Yeah. And thank God, majority of us have a fine sense of humor, and, I don't look back at it with disgust or, self-flagellation. Oh, God, we really screwed that up.
Gosh.
Man, was it hilarious. That whole intermission was us wiping tears of laughter from our faces.
That was a lot of fun, that show. I don't know if it was high art, but it was a lot of fun.
I think we can safely say it was not high art.
Have you ever had performances where you're like, oh, I really messed up. I really shouldn't have done that.
Well, there have been shows where I've been very unforgiving of myself for very common mistakes. Go up on a line, that kind of thing, and where on nights where like I have a tendency on like first preview or like on an opening night of a show under heightened, kind of self-imposed heightened stakes and pressure. I'll go up on a line, I'll forget something, and that kind of thing really gnaws at me. But like in terms of like feeling like I really threw an entire show away, I don't think so. Which is
Good.
Yeah, which is perhaps lucky, in my opinion. At the Purple Rose, where I work regularly now, we get a lot of rehearsal time, more than any of the other theaters that I'm familiar with in town. We get about 6 weeks.
Practically more than most theaters I'm aware of ever.
Right.
Yeah.
So I feel very well rehearsed and prepared there. There are, other situations in town where sometimes
You get 2.5 weeks.
get 2.5 weeks of rehearsal. Opening night's the first time I actually nailed a monologue, like that kind of thing. So my sense of the need for thorough preparation has grown and evolved.
Have you become addicted to thorough preparation?
Well,
I don't know if that's.
Let's talk.
right.
I guess the. Well, I guess we should define the terms. I just want to know my lines.
Yeah.
Like the way I've grown to work over the past few years, I don't do much more than that. I played an historical character a couple years ago at the Rose, Oscar Wilde, in a Sherlock Holmes play, and I read a biography of Oscar Wilde, and I revisited some of his writings. But like, I don't think that was over, precious about preparing for anything. I think that was just kind of doing my due diligence, but just making sure I know the words. There's no. I don't think you can really do the work until you know the words.
Well, what I would say to my students often is that the work doesn't end at line memorization. The work begins at line memorization.
Yeah.
So once you can get those lines down, then you can really start to dig in and start to explore stuff. Yeah.
If I go into a rehearsal and my energy is focused on remembering, it's not on you, my partner. It's not on the given circumstances. I'm not free to play. I'm not available to any sense of flow. So I've grown. In that sense, I've grown addicted to being prepared. I want to be prepared because I like playing a lot. I like knowing that me and the people that I'm working with are open to impulse and creativity, and our energy isn't on hitting our marks or knowing our words. That stuff is the work that you do in order to make something cool.
Well, since we're talking about the Rose, can you tell us what that process is like from, maybe from beginning to end?
I'll do my best to give
at least
you a
your
sketch of that.
experience.
One of the things I like about it is how it varies from project to project. If you're doing an established script or if you're doing a new script, the approach is going to be different. And I've been, I have to do a little tallying, but I would say I've probably done, at the Purple Rose, I would say more than half of the shows I've done there have been new scripts. So the process is one where, on day one, we come in pretty prepared. And essentially what happens is we're given, in terms of the work and the text that we're going to do, we know what text we're going to be tackling the day before. So we're asked to come in being pretty familiar with our lines. We don't
For that particular
scene.
Okay.
So we don't work with pages in our hands. That's just how we do it there. and that was something I had to get used to at first because that's not how I was accustomed to working. But as soon as I put in the work and came to work prepared, I was like, oh, this makes a lot of sense. Now we can actually play, and I'm not encumbered by clumsily handling pages or looking. I'm not giving my partners my full self if I'm giving part of it to my pages. I mean, it's as simple as that. Just are you able to be fully invested in what's happening right now?
And you have to memorize before that rehearsal?
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I can't completely answer that question. We do that.
It's encouraged.
We do that. I've never seen anybody not do that, and come in and get put on the whipping post. I mean, we like that's how we work. That's the expectation, and I think it's a good one. I think it works for what we do. But in terms of the process, I mean, one of the things that the Purple Rose does, Guy Sandel, artistic director, and the other people and creators there, Michelle Mountain, who directs and assistant directs, and Angie Kane, who's forgive me, Angie Ferrante, who's a director and stage manager, and Devin Fott, stage manager, director. We spend a lot of time doing stuff that on the surface may not look directly related to what's on the page. We do a lot of exercises. The past couple of years we've done a lot of viewpoints. We'll do a lot of movement. We'll do a lot of vocal work, stuff where we just spend time connecting with each other, learning each other's.
Digging into character and relationship?
Well, I mean, it just we're not thinking specifically about character. Not perhaps the director is. That's their business. We're given a task. Let's move to this music. Let's employ this verb. I want you to move this. I want you to move to this, and now we're going to start interacting. Let's connect with somebody, and here's your verb. I want you to go and implore this person, or go dominate or win or like whatever it is. It's just about developing a sense of company, about ensemble being in the same flow, in the same space, in the same mindset, and what that does is it prepares the ground it prepares the work in the text. We find that we've already really developed a strong sense of trust and sort of understanding of who we are as people, because that's where it begins with the Rose. Guy Sandel is very fond of saying he doesn't cast characters, he casts people. He wants to see, he believes in our own individual humanity and what that can bring to a play. And the character stuff comes after we have opened up our minds and our hearts fully, and we're just fully committed to whatever the task at hand may be, whether we're learning, we usually dance, we learn a particular dance which may or may not have anything directly related to do with the actual play, but we spend time connecting with each other in that way and connecting with our bodies in that way. Or if we're doing like mirroring exercises or all sorts of, if we're just doing yoga together or whatever it is, it's all about setting the stage for just a really a liberated sense of impulse and creativity. It's all about that.
How does that affect your relationship with your fellow cast members? Does it really help with the bond? Do sometimes you get sick of each other? Or?
Well, I mean, you learn each other really well, because one of the things about the Rose is that Guy and Jeff have deliberately established is that it's a company. New actors are brought into the fold every season, but I mean, you see, we work with. Guy likes to work with people that understand. That we want to all speak the same language. We want to live in the same space and understand, like, how do we get to the finish line here, and the result is kind of a secondary thing. The process is king there, and often, yeah. So I know the company really well, you know, and that's really good. I trust everyone. People trust me. I'm not worried that someone is gonna cross any sort of line. I never feel unsafe. I never feel, which doesn't mean that we're always comfortable. Like, we're constantly put in positions that like we're not comfortable with.
Oh, how so?
I don't, you know, it's not always the most comfortable thing to decide that I'm going to stand here and stare at another human being for 3 minutes and be open
yourself
and open yourself up, and before you know it, you're blubbering or you're laughing and you're this and you're that, but you're vulnerable, and but that's what's sought, is whatever is authentic and real in that moment. That's what we want. We want that. We want to bring that to the page.
And how does that translate to the shows? Do you find that some of the shows can vary, or?
Well, absolutely. I mean, you know, if we're doing a period piece, we just this past fall did the second installment in what is going to be a trilogy, in a Sherlock Holmes trilogy by local playwright David McGregor.
So this is original Sherlock.
Yeah, this is all original material. You know. So that's period piece, you know, late 19th century, and so there's all of the accoutrement, you know, you've got gorgeous costumes, lavish sets, British and Scottish accents and this and that, and that stuff is crucial to telling the story, but it's comes late in the process. It's first about just being able to exist together in the same world, in the space, to listen, to breathe, to be comfortable, to develop a rhythm of listening and responding. Like, this other stuff comes a little later in the process. But usually, in terms of how we approach the text in the room, in the rehearsal hall, the guy encourages us to just let every expectation about character go. I want to just see you. And we live there for usually about 2 weeks before we start saying, all right.
How long is the typical rehearsal process?
We have 2 weeks in the rehearsal hall. Then we move into the theater after the previous show is closed for another 2 weeks, which leads up to tech. So we have 4 weeks until tech weekend, and then we have tech dress, and we start previews the following week, and then we get 6 or 7 previews. So we get 6 weeks to opening night with 6 or 7 previews involved there.
That's university level
Thorough
rehearsing.
Yeah,
even more than university level.
Yeah.
Because how long are the days there?
Well, usually we're scheduled anywhere from 6 to 8 hours. Usually,
So that's a full day of rehearsal.
It's a full day of rehearsal. 5 or 6 days a week. So, it's a job as much as anything else.
You come in, you punch in, you
sign in, and
you get vulnerable.
Yeah, man. That's a deal.
It sounds like an amazing process, and one that other theaters kind of wish that they could afford
it is a question of resources. I mean, the Rose is established, and it wouldn't be without an Emmy-winning celebrity, you know, who put this whole thing together, and so there's that.
Now, when people think of
doors.
the Purple Rose, I know a lot of people think that Jeff Daniels is like always in and out and like, hey, everybody.
Yeah.
But have you found that to be the case? Or?
Well, in my experience there, which isn't even half of the life of the Purple Rose, it depends on what he's got going on. For a couple of years, he wasn't there a whole lot. He was when I first when I started working regular and became a resident artist in 2013, I think that was when he was doing some theater in New York, and then came Newsroom, and so he was really busy, and he wasn't as hands-on involved. But he writes about a play a season or so. We'll produce a Jeff Daniels play. He's a really good writer, and he'll, when he can, he's there for some rehearsal process. First time I worked a lot with him was a year ago. Just over a year ago, he wrote a comedy called Diva Royale, and he was between projects, and leading up to his time on Broadway and To Kill a Mockingbird, he was involved in rehearsals a lot. So he was in the room a bunch. He did a lot of writing and rewriting. It was great. It was really cool. We're in production now with a new play that he's written with music that he and his son wrote called Road Signs, which I'm really thrilled about, really proud of. And he was involved quite a bit the first couple of weeks before he had a break around the holidays when we were in rehearsals, before he had to go back to filming his next thing, and he'll be filming he's shooting another series in the summer, so he probably won't be around as much. But for a year he was gone in New York on Broadway, but before that he had been there for some time, and then he was back again, and that's the case. I mean, he likes to be home when he can be home, and if he's not working. So, and if he's home, you see him wandering the halls or wandering around Chelsea getting a coffee or whatever, riding his bike. Yeah, just hometown dude.
Yeah, well, that's great. Did you find yourself a little starstruck when you first started working with him, or were you trying to be cool, like, "Hey, Jeff"?
Well, the first when I first started, I worked with him directly for the first. Well, I take that back. That's right. I did. He wrote a couple of short plays in 2014, I think it was, for a one-act festival we did. That was the first time I worked directly with him. And a little bit. I mean, it was like when he came in and gave notes on one of his scenes, it was like, that was kind of a big deal, and it felt kind of cool. But then he cast me. He's got a production company that he runs out of his, he's got a studio on his property in Chelsea. They do, they produce music and they produce commercials and stuff with he and his sons, 2188 Studios. They cast me in, or rather, I was cast in a series of videos that like a local bank did, and he wrote and directed that. That was the first time I did a lot of like one-on-one working with him. And no is the answer. I wasn't starstruck. I mean, he's just the man. He's a workhorse. He works, and if you should, and like that's what is the impression, is this guy is really smart, and he knows how to work, and he loves to work, and we talk about work, and work is work, and let's get to work. Let's make something, and it's really cool. You don't really have time to be starstruck. However, and then we worked on Diva Royale, which is a really cool experience. Still not entirely starstruck, even though it's awesome. Like, I'm working with a guy who's won an Emmy at this point, and who's been nominated for Tonys, and has been in wildly successful films and all this stuff. It's really cool. It wasn't until this last summer when I went and saw him in To Kill a Mockingbird on Broadway that he was kind enough to say hi to me and my wife after the show. That was when I was like, wow, he's kind of a big deal. This is I mean, he's a honest to goodness star. And I seeing him out of Chelsea, seeing him in New York, in the limelight, his name on the marquee.
Do you think he's a different person when he's out? No?
No.
And I don't want to make this about Jeff Daniels.
Yeah.
Certainly, that was not my intent. But I think it's interesting when we're talking about your work and working with somebody who has that kind of name recognition, how it affects your work.
Yeah. Well, I've been fortunate enough to not work just in the theater. I've been in I've done commercials, and I've done industrial videos, and I've done, when the film incentive was a thing here in Michigan, I did about 6 or 7 movies where I had day player spots and stuff, and I worked with some celebrities. I worked with some Oscar winners. I did a scene with Hilary Swank, Sigourney Weaver, Danny Glover. Like, I've worked with people, like, and there's a sense when you're on set with them, the way it affects my work is, like, I better show up ready. Like, I am not gonna be the reason that this person hated working in Michigan and working with local hires.
Do you feel a special responsibility there?
Absolutely. I mean, there's tons of money in movies. That there's schedules. Like, I need to come and be ready. And those experiences almost across the board were really good. And I never felt by, like, any true A-listers, like that I was looked at as, I always felt like I was a colleague. Like, each of those people made me feel like, hi, welcome to work today. Let's do this. And everyone said good job after we wrapped, and, like, it was very satisfying. And I never had a sense of anything, well, except for one B-lister who felt like he was, in fact.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So that's an interesting distinction there.
Yeah.
So this B-lister, who shall remain
I don't know
unnamed, how did he make you feel? Like, he or she make you feel?
I could tell that he felt like the project was beneath him. It was clear. Like, it was an independent film, low budget, and this is a person who had worked on an Emmy-winning TV series in the '90s, and who had some legitimate success and work, and hadn't worked as much recently, but, like, I could tell, like, he thought that this is, it was just a vibe he cast, and you could tell that people were kind of catering to him a little more gingerly than others, and it didn't really bug me so much, but it was just something I noticed, and that was the first film I ever shot, feature film, and subsequently when I did pictures with other people who had more success and more name recognition, I compared notes, and I was like, well, these people don't take their stature and their status for granted. They respect the actor, and they respect the work, even if it's not the greatest project. They respect the fact that they're privileged enough to get to do this work. I mean, they've earned it, but I mean, like, it's an honor, it's a privilege to get to tell stories and to do the things on this scale. That's not something that didn't go unnoticed, and certainly, something I try to take to work with me every day. I don't take it for granted. I don't take the people for granted. I don't take my situation for granted. I'm grateful for every moment of it, and I'm grateful for every person that I work with, and I have a lot of respect for anybody who has the guts to do this work. Yeah.
What is the difference between working on a film for you and working on a play?
Well, there are a lot of big differences. I guess the first thing I'll say is, I have been fortunate enough to work on some films. I haven't done a ton of it. I've got like 7 or 8 films on my resume. An indie film with my biggest role was in an indie film, which was a lot of fun. But I will say this, that working at the Purple Rose has made acting on film a lot more, it unlocked the key to it for me, or rather, it was the key to unlocking it for me. Purple Rose is a small thrust stage, and the simplicity is king there, in terms of we're not, the subtlety and nuance, and not putting anything on display, that kind of thing, and that and there have been times that we do film acting on stage, like that's how it's been put, and so finding the ability to just, like, trusting in yourself to just stand still, breathe, listen, and respond, and to believe that is enough. Like, I don't, the camera does the work when you're on film. Like, you have to give the camera very little. If the interior life is there, if you're a decent conduit for creativity impulse for this particular character, like the camera does most of the work. You just don't have to try that hard. That's spoiler, like that's a secret to this.
Don't try.
You don't.
That's the lesson.
Well,
Don't ever.
I think I see a lot of actors trying really hard to act. They work really, really hard, and they get in their own way.
I think Michael Chekhov has a directive, which is working with a feeling of ease is essential to your work, and I found that especially on film. For me, in many ways, there's advantages to getting a theater education, and there's disadvantages to getting a theater education. So going back to what you said earlier about like it might outrage people that he didn't get a theater education, but it sounds like you're getting a theater education every single day.
I am
through the road.
Well, and that's true. I mean, I talked about how our rehearsals are usually set up where we spend a couple hours doing stuff that's not directly related to the text. Like I very much have grown to view that as training. I mean, there are things that we are training ourselves in every day. We practice listening. We practice, opening up, and we do exercises to and things that are specifically designed to just like get us free and get us out of our heads. And
do you observe not only improvement in yourself over the years of working in Purple Rose specifically? Do you observe your peers and your fellow actors also improving?
Oh,
are you able to kind of put yourself out there and go, oh my goodness, she wasn't capable of that 2 years ago, and now she's doing this thing?
And like that can be a disservice to the work if I'm actually noticing how wonderful this person is in front of me. But yes, absolutely.
Well, you can't help yourself.
Can't help it. No.
Sometimes, especially in a
in a company and an ensemble like that. Yeah, I've seen us all grow. I've seen us all get better. And interestingly enough, harkening back to something I just said, it usually has to do with like trusting that you just don't need to do as much. Simplifying the work. Trusting that you're enough. You don't have to put on nearly as much as a lot of people would have you believe. You don't have to work so hard to become something else. It's an act of daring and vulnerability to access like the truest part of me and to give it.
Well, acting is taking off. It's not putting on. Right, it's revealing, not covering.
Which I mean, but I have to, in that play I had to speak with a German accent. In that play I had to be a Brit.
That's something else.
The accoutrement, the affectations which are necessary to, accommodate this particular role. But I heartily agree with that. I think that's probably the biggest thing that I've learned, and I think that's the biggest thing that actors at the theater where I work primarily come to believe and trust that it's like how do we peel further, how do we reveal more of who we are, which is kind of it's changed me personally over the course of the last decade. I grew up in a religious tradition that encouraged self-loathing and that encouraged.
Are you? I mean, if this is too personal, you don't have to answer. But are you still an evangelical?
No. I'm textbook agnostic. I don't know what I don't know. You know what I mean? I don't know. I don't. I have let go of the arrogance that would claim absolute knowledge to pretty much anything.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like. I think it requires some arrogance.
Well, did that come before you got into theater, or was theater somehow part of that?
Theater very much was a part of that evolution. Putting myself into other people's shoes, seeing things from different perspectives, hearing different stories. I listen to this podcast, which I really love, called Snap Judgment. It's a storytelling, like, journalistic podcast. It's wonderful, very artfully done. And the guy who created it, he's a Michigan guy. His name's Glenn Washington, and he, the mission of that podcast is to develop empathy. And he said, you can't hate somebody once you've heard their story. You can't judge somebody as nearly as harshly as you naturally would once you understand something about who and what they are. Mm-hmm. That's why storytelling is important, and that changed me. And I mean, it's not just my experience in the theater, but yeah, storytelling has become my religion. I mean, that's what religion is.
Yeah.
It's just a certain way of, it's in a certain set of
how
stories.
we tell our stories.
Yeah.
So, on this earth, right?
I've moved beyond that, with the only clear framework that has replaced organized religion in my life at this point is the theater. That, like, this particular act of creativity.
What to you is the Michigan actor? I mean, you've worked with several. You've worked from children's theater on up,
Mm-hmm.
and specifically, almost all the different aspects of Michigan theater.
Well, I will. First of all, let me just tell you how limited my ability to answer that question is, because I've only been a Michigan actor.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't been an actor who's tried to break into the Chicago, LA, or New York markets or anywhere else. I've gone to some auditions.
So you don't have the comparison.
Yeah. This is what I can say about myself and the people I know and that I've worked with, that the Michigan actor, and I'm sure this is universal, but there is a tremendous sense of hustle that has to happen if you want to be an actor. If you want to be an artist of any sort, you have to find a way to support yourself. I'm a husband and a dad. I have kids. Like, I have a family life. It's not easy doing the things that I do.
Well, you have 4.
I have 4 kids.
Children.
I
4 children.
It's true. I do.
As an actor,
Yeah.
putting them through,
Yeah. Raising
their
kids.
adolescence. And,
It's, that's an entirely unique set of challenges. But for me, what it's meant to be a Michigan actor is meant that the only thing that makes it possible is a tremendous sense of love for the craft and drive, passion, and responsibility. So it's not like I can't just be an actor. Even though if I was a bachelor and not a dad, I'd be fine. If the past 10 years doing my job as an actor would have been enough to live and to get by. I have to work a part-time job in the mornings. I've been doing it for 15 years. I don't sleep enough at night. I do a show at night or I'm at rehearsal, and then I come home and I sleep for a few hours. I get up, I go to work, earn a good wage and earn my medical benefits and all that stuff for my family, and I go back home and I sleep, and then I go back to work at the theater. So the Michigan actor is an actor who's got like the sort of Midwestern hardworking, even though I've cast off the religion part, Protestant like work ethic. You got to work your ass off. There's no other way to do it. You have to show up to the auditions for the jobs that you're not passionate about. That might an industrial that you don't care about at all. That you show up, and because that's how you work. You do the work, whatever the work is. You don't say no to opportunities. You dive in and you give it your all. In the company that I am a part of right now at the Rose, I mean, it also means that we care a lot about each other. We spend time together. We support each other. Some really difficult things have happened in that community over the past couple of years, and we've had to lift each other up and support each other. So being a Michigan actor, in my experience, has meant being part of a tremendous community where there's love and there's support and there's deep friendship I mean, I guess I don't know how good of an or specific of an answer that is.
Oh, I think that's a great answer.
That's-
Actually, I mean, you definitely are speaking passionately about that, and
Yeah.
and I love that answer. You know, because I think I agree with a lot of what you're saying, if not all of it.
Yeah.
Where do you see yourself? I mean, first of all, where do you see yourself in 5 years? What is your hope as an actor, or
Yeah.
as a theater person, or as a film person?
Yeah. Well, you know, I have sort of tailored my goals and the things that I want around my family life. So, I would, in the future, I would love to look beyond Michigan. I've tried it a couple times in the past, and without having ever booked any work outside of the state. You know, I've been called back for some big projects in the past in New York and in Chicago. Nothing ever came of them. But like having worked with the people that I've worked with, and having here, and the things that I've learned, and having some of the experience on film on camera that I've had, I have every confidence that in the future, when I'm ready to move beyond Michigan, you know, be kind of that like late middle-aged dude who shows up in Chicago, LA, or New York and tries, like that. I see myself doing that. I've got my youngest kid's 9, and I think the likelihood of us uprooting and moving somewhere else to help me pursue my acting dreams is probably really low. That's not going to happen unless some opportunity would present itself to me here that would expand my horizons. I see myself here, and hopefully continuing to work in the theater and whatever, you know, working on camera as much as I can. So in 5 years, I'll probably still be here. I'd love to branch out into more aspects of the theater. I'd love to do a little bit of coaching or teaching in the future. I feel like I've got, even with my total lack of education, I feel like I've got a lot to offer. And in that way, I think 10 years is a little further down the road. I could see myself moving beyond Michigan, trying to you know, claim a little ground somewhere else. Yeah.
And you know, what would you like to see this community do in 10 years? I mean,
well, I would love to see. I'd love to see Governor Whitmer bring back the film incentive to the state. I'd love to see more film production here. You know, I think we got shafted by a Republican administration. Without getting, you know, too political, but I think that that is something I would love to see. I know that, you know, hopefully, I hope for what I hope for is in the theater community. I hope for like the greatest success possible for each of the theaters. You know, like I hope that theater subscription bases continue to grow, that the donorship levels continue to grow. I want the best for the theater community, you know. I would love to see theaters, you know, open up more theaters, and you know, there have been a lot of theaters have been started by apprentices, former apprentices at the Purple Rose. Like, I'd love to see like that kind of thing continue to happen. I mean, from not just Purple Rose, but you know, everybody else, like making more theater, doing more plays, developing a younger audience. That's a big deal. Don't want to see the audience go away as it dies. You know, I mean the demographics are, you know, they're pretty typical. Where you know the typical theater goer in Southeast Michigan is like 55 years old or older, and you know you need to see younger people. So I think a lot of stuff. I'm like, it's cool to see that the Detroit Public Theater happening in downtown. That's a tap in a market that needs to be tapped, and they're developing a totally new audience there, and that's awesome. I did a production there a few years ago, and it was a completely different vibe, you know, than other places that I've worked, and that was That was great. So, I hope that there's just more people who are looking to innovate and do new things and do different. I love one of the great parts of my career is like in the last 5 or 6 years, I've done a lot of new plays, like develop more playwriting talent. Like I hope I hope to see more new work. Yeah, I mean, there's like really the whole kit and caboodle. Let's make more movies. Let's make more plays.
Let's do it all.
Let's do it all.
Let's do it all.
Come on.
All right.
How hard is that?
Well, it shouldn't be that hard. We roll up our sleeves and we get to work, and our
Right.
Protestant work ethic.
Yeah,
We can all do it. Well, Rusty, it's been great. Believe it or not.
Oh wow.
It's our time.
Good.
Isn't that? And it goes by really quickly.
Yeah,
doesn't
it does. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good job. Thanks.
Well, thank you. Rusty Mewha can be found at the Purple Rose, and if you would like to see what their season is, don't forget to go to their website, which I think is www.purplerose.org.
I think it's purplerosetheater.org. Yeah,
purplerosetheater.org, or just Google it, and you'll be able to find it. I will put it here somewhere. And if you would like to learn more about me, don't forget to go to my website, which is www.michigancheckoff.com. That's CHEKHOV.com, or JeffTomakis.com, and you can see what we're up to and what we're trying to bring to the community. And next time, I'm not sure who I'm going to be interviewing next time. So, but I do have some people booked, so I'll figure it out for next time. Anyway, thank you all for watching, and we'll see you guys later.